Everyone, please welcome back our friend EdONeill to the show. For 11 years, EdONeill played Al Bundy. A lot of people watched him every week. But behind the cameras, something more sinister was coming together. There were fights that went on for years. There was a fight in the makeup room that everyone forgot. A wedding invite that didn't show up. And one time he told a co-star that he could get rid of her by pressing a button. He didn't say anything about what really happened in that show for decades. Now, when he finally talks, what he says changes everything people thought they knew about being married and having kids. Todd O'Neill was born on April 12, 1946, in Youngstown, Ohio. All day and night, steel mills filled the sky with smoke. More than 50,000 people worked in those mills by 1950. The town then beat like a loud, hot factory. To make about $2 an hour, his dad drove trucks on long highways and put in long, hard hours at the mills. His mother stretched every dollar that came in to keep up with 5 kids during years when the steel business went up and down very quickly. When 5 million tons of steel were made in 1952, the town felt alive. But soon after, strikes cut family incomes by almost a third. And everyone learned how little room there was between staying alive and losing it. Ed walked by sparks when he was a kid. They came from huge furnaces and streets covered in soot that made the air heavy. A lot of people got asthma, but kids kept running through it. At age 14, he worked in construction for $1.25 an hour. Later, he picked up scrap metal in mills where people still talked about old riots where people had died. He became very tough and dry as a joker because of those early years. This made Al Bundy seem so real. When Married with Kids started airing in April 1987 and went on for 11 seasons. It was when he was 8 years old that danger got close enough to change him for good. In 1954, at his dad's job site, a steel beam that weighed almost 500 pounds came loose from a crane. It fell so close to Ed that the pieces of it broke his arm in two. Because penicillin was still hard to come by, doctors stitched up 22 holes while using local anesthesia. To be strong like his dad, he stayed in bed for 10 days and wouldn't take painkillers. At that time, mills could lift 100 tons per hour, and 15 workers died every year in accidents. That means everyone in those families knew what the risk was. Ed grew up near molten slag that was so hot it could kill you in seconds. But he remembered this moment. It gave him grit and pride, and later helped him bring characters to life who were having a hard time with life. Football came in like a breath of fresh air. He became a force at Ursuline High School. He was 6 feet 1 inches tall and weighed about 225 pounds by 1963. He was also able to break offensive lines with just his will. At the end of his senior year, he had a 9-0-1 record. Even in 2025, when the school hadn't lost in a while, he had 18 sacks. Major schools were interested in him after he scored a pick 6 on homecoming night. But mill wages had dropped by a quarter during recession, so he stayed close to home and later played football at Youngstown State. Roger Staubach, who would go on to win the Heisman, was hit by him so hard that it caused a 15-yard flag. It was the same place where Al Bundy got the idea for his old story about scoring 4 touchdowns in one game, where Ed walked with his glory. In those days, work wasn't just about making money. When he was 14, he worked all summer moving huge piles of junk. He stood next to furnaces that were over 2,700 degrees and heard the roar of flames. He also saw union fights that sometimes turned into full-on riots. He saw guards swing bats and bricks fly, while the picketers asked for a few more cents an hour. He once hid under a truck while a bottle was thrown nearby and set cars on fire. People lost meals when strikes went on for a long time. There were several times when National Guard trucks went through neighborhoods. It all changed the way he saw the world and helped him become the man he would play on screen many years later. His faith also pushed him. His Irish Catholic family, especially an uncle, pushed him to think about becoming a priest. He became an altar boy when he was 7 years old. When he and some friends broke into the sacristy on a Sunday in 1958, everything changed. They drank a lot of communion wine and got sick during the blessing, and were punished by getting hit in the hands with a cane. Word got around quickly, and he felt exposed in front of a parish of 500 people. He could already tell the difference between sermons and the real problems families were having at that point. The idea of becoming a priest turned him off. He found comfort in football and used rebellion as fuel. He married a Catholic woman a long time after that, and stayed true to his roots. But the anger he felt at the start gave him an edge. He had just as much trouble in college. He first went to Ohio University and played defensive back. In 1965, he was named team MVP, but he had a disagreement with a coach and left for Youngstown State in 1966. Everything changed when the switch was flipped. He switched to defensive line and had the most tackles in Division II in 1967 with 142, and stood out so much that NFL scouts looked at him very closely. He also got bigger after the move. He is now about 6 feet 4 inches and 240 pounds. Football helped him stay on task, but school was a different story. He majored in history, but almost failed because he partied with his fraternity all the time. He failed 2 sets of finals before a teacher helped him stay in school. It made him more serious because it showed him how quickly things could go wrong. He couldn't get away from pain even then. During college, he dated a cheerleader who went on to become Miss Ohio. She broke up with him after high school because she thought he was more interested in football than in being with her in the future. He felt terrible about losing, and it followed him around for a long time after he left the field. That pain made him feel things that he later used as an actor. Scouts said that he had the raw skills of a mean, young Joe Green. They saw speed and strength that could help him get into the NFL, but they also saw a young man who went out too much. He was a free agent when the Pittsburgh Steelers signed him in 1969. It was as tough as steel at camp. He had never played outside linebacker before, but Green and L.C. Greenwood put him in games against them. The drills at St. Vincent College were so hard that the players passed out from exhaustion. Push himself through everything until one play changed everything. At the start of the season, he hit Terry Bradshaw hard enough to dislocate the quarterback's shoulder. He was blamed by Chuck Noll in public. Soon after, Ed was cut. His dream fell apart in one afternoon, and he felt the weight of that event for years. He stayed in Pittsburgh in a small, rundown apartment that cost only $75 a month. He worked in a bar, didn't have much money, and was always looking for another chance to play football. He even tried out for the Montreal Alouettes football team. But a fight in a bar with a scout ended that chance right away. It looked like all the doors shut. He tried to walk into the Bengals camp in 1970. It got hotter than 100 degrees. He passed out from heat stroke on the 3rd day, and doctors found a broken rib. That hit by Bradshaw had never healed. They warned him that going ahead could hurt him in the long run. That's when he knew it was over. He had gone as far as football could take him. After many years, the USFL called him in 1983 when he was already making a name for himself as an actor. They wished he could play again. Even though the offer made him want to go back to the field that had pushed him out, his pride wouldn't let him. No, he said, and that choice put an end to any chance of coming back. He was now in stories instead of stadiums, and the life he made up on screen began to rise higher than the one he lost. EdONeill moved to Manhattan in 1971 with a small bag, a strong will, and a $200 a month walk-up in Hell's Kitchen that shook when the wind hit the walls. The area was rough, and the cold winter weather tore through his coat. Still, he left every morning with the same goal in mind. He had to go to work. Things had to be done. He tried out for every commercial he could find, and every day, he stood in line with people he didn't know. Each audition led to the next. By the start of the new decade, he had gone to more than 300 commercial auditions and gotten about 50 of them. The Miller Lite campaign was one of them. That hit the whole of America. The rough look on his face, the dry way he spoke, and his quiet confidence. All of them helped people who had never heard of him before remember his name. He got smarter during those years in New York. Their changes made his face and style tougher. He felt like the city's cold nights and loud streets had carved something into him that would stay with him forever. In 1976, he was on stage in an off-Broadway boxing show called Knockout. He was told in the script to really punch people, so he did. He hit his scene partner every night with the same force a boxer would use in the ring. His hand broke in the second week. He felt the crack, but he didn't stop because he didn't want to miss the show. He played for 6 weeks with a splint hidden inside his glove. The doctors told him to stop, but he just smiled, nodded, and went back on stage. Lots of people talked about the actor who broke his hand but never stopped performing. The show ran for months at Theater 4. He carried that level of dedication with him into every room he went into after that. At the same time, something happened that could have changed the course of his life. For a part in The Godfather Part 2, he tried out. During the test, an Irish mobster stood up and told him to stick to football. The words hit me like a shot. Because O'Neill played football at Youngstown State, the threat was personal. That's right. He took a step back. The part went away, and he went in a different direction with his career. One he could not have planned. Things kept going. He was with Victoria Principal from 1973 to 1975, before she became famous as Pamela Ewing on Dallas. The time they spent together was warm and full of early career hopes, but they broke up because he wouldn't quit smoking. He stopped because she told him to. He wasn't going to. Her fame came soon after, and their relationship turned into one of those Hollywood what-if moments that stay with you. Back in old interviews, in 1978, money was tight again, so he worked as a bartender at Studio 54. The club was a crazy place with lots of lights, loud music, and famous people walking around in the dark. Andy Warhol and Truman Capote drank from him, and he watched the kinds of nights that people soon wrote books about. Then he mixed something wrong one night. An A-list guest almost overdosed because of a drink that had too much of spike. He was banned for months because of the scare. In the end, he joked that the whole thing taught him to be careful with what he poured, even though the chaos and locked door were the lessons. In 1980, William Friedkin cast him in Cruising with Al Pacino, which was the start of his big break in Hollywood. He played a tough New York police officer who worked in the city's rougher areas. It was known for its racy scenes and protests, and those protests followed them into the streets. Still, O'Neill let a line he made up on the spot come out in one scene where he was being questioned. It's not football. He kept it Friedkin. People paid attention to him at times like that. His steady presence kept casting directors interested even as other chances came up. He worked on The Dogs of War that same year. For the part, he had to train with heavy weapons, and during one session, he accidentally fired real bullets. A fake car blew up. For 2 days, work stopped. Everyone on the set became more careful about their safety. The crew saw how far O'Neill would go to make a scene feel real, which made him feel ashamed and scared. Then came more small parts. In the 1985 movie Miami Vice, he played a shady football coach and went on a rant about steroids. He got the words from stories he had heard. Steven Spielberg was in the locker room of the Pittsburgh Steelers when he saw the scene. Spielberg told him how much he liked how real the performance was and how raw the moment was. Every little thing he did added another brick to the path he was on. In the breaks between jobs, he tried to take advantage of chances that didn't come his way. He tried out for the part of Norm on Cheers in 1982. The producers liked both him and George Wendt, so when they couldn't decide, they joked their way into a beef. Wendt won. It made O'Neill laugh for years. Then, in 1984, he broke a co-star's nose by accident during a fight scene on Hunter. Someone sued and said sorry after that. It also made him learn martial arts even more. As of 2007, he had a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu. People who didn't know him until later as the man behind Al Bundy were often surprised by how dedicated he was to his craft. In 1986, his life changed once more. When Fox asked him to be the lead in Married with Children 3 times, he said no because he didn't want to be stuck in one role. Fox kept coming back. In the end, they offered $25,000 per episode, which was a very high price for the time. He got to the table red in his rusty pickup, not sure what to do and not sure if he was sure. He wasn't funny enough. The team for Rupert Murdoch was scared. Barry Diller was interested in someone else. There was more pressure in the room. He didn't even find out that the show was almost canceled until the pilot was over. Still, once the cameras stopped rolling, everything started to make sense. He and the show both felt like something clicked. But things were crazy in the beginning, even back then. 5 days after filming the pilot, the first Kelly and Bud were fired. O'Neill thought they didn't get along. Tried to get a different pair. I felt guilty and sure at the same time. It only took 48 hours to bring in Christina Applegate and David Faustino. Even though they didn't have much time to practice, as soon as they got to work, the show's heart started beating in the right rhythm. The show was saved by those reshoots before it even aired. Small things started to come together to make Al Bundy who he was. O'Neill made up a story about a friend who used to work as a salesman and got fired for bragging that he sold more women's shoes than anyone else. This happened during a wardrobe fitting. They loved it so much that they turned it into the Bundy curse. The line turned into episodes, jokes, and even stuff you could buy. It turned into a story about the show, and it all started in a fitting room. Still, Fox executives thought Al was being too mean and thought about ending the show. O'Neill walked into their offices and told them to let the audience make the choice. To make his point, he showed a reel of fights he had in college football to show how funny and exciting he could be. They gave in. The show made it. After 11 seasons, it changed the way American comedies are made. At some point, he signed a 5-year deal without reading the whole thing, and he insisted on terms that would protect his rights. He didn't want to be naked, or anything that made him go against what he believed in. The producers agreed, but his co-stars were shocked. The limit stayed in place during the whole series, which helped him stay steady as the show pushed all of its other limits. Back when the show was at its best, EdOneill threw himself into physical comedy without holding back. Over 187 pratfalls were done by him between 1988 and 1993. Each one landed on real nerves and joints. The pain got worse until he could barely move because of 2 bulging discs. Even though it hurt, he kept going to work, going to the chiropractor every week just to be able to stand up straight on set. He said that his sciatica hurt so badly at times that he couldn't move, but he wouldn't give up because the show needed Al Bundy to keep falling and moaning, to keep the people watching laughing. He later said that Dr. Stuart McGill was the one who gave him his body back. McGill's back mechanic did more than just help him get better. It saved his job and his everyday life, so he could keep doing the crazy things that made Al Bundy's world what it was. As the years went by, he tried his hand at directing. The set got very tense quickly when he took over the season 7 episode called Grime and Punishment. There were too many mean jokes about Peggy Bundy in the script. The crew pushed back after hearing one insult too many. They said they would leave if the insult didn't stop. He paid attention and agreed, and that was the only episode where Peggy wasn't made fun of. People who worked on that show, which was known for having sharp edges, didn't want to cross that one line. It was also an odd mix of pressure and unity for his first movie as a director. Then 1991 came along, when he was given the lead role in Home Improvement. It looked like a chance to get another hit, but he didn't feel right in the part. He said no because the character was too dark for him. Instead, he agreed to a $1 million kill fee so that he could leave. He didn't feel bad about leaving the show when it became popular without him. He wanted funny things that had a beat he could trust, and he knew when to back off when something didn't feel right. Around this time, jiu-jitsu came into his life out of the blue. He didn't wave it off when a wrestler on set challenged him. Instead, he learned from Rory and Gracie. After one lesson, I trained for years. Soon, he was shocking everyone by submitting 3 crew members during a show. After 15 years of hard work, he finally got his black belt in 2007. People in the cast joked that he was now as strong as the real Bundy. People didn't expect her to be so calm and sure of herself. His job kept changing. He was up for a Golden Globe in 1991 and 1992, but he skipped out on throwing a party with the cast and instead went to a Steelers game. By that time, things were getting worse between them and Amanda Bears, and being so far apart made group events awkward. The fight got worse when Bears were left off of a TV guide cover. He later said that he should have done a better job when she didn't invite him to her wedding in 2010. But at that moment, the silence said more than anything else. For years after that, he hadn't even read the script before going to the Modern Family audition. As Jay Pritchett, he had to make it up on the spot. He said something about having a Colombian wife when they asked him about his wife. It came from the real fears he had after her death. He got the part the same day because he was honest in that moment. Ad-libs like that, one became a big part of the show. But his strict. Some kids played a joke on no-nonsense style by staging a fake DEA raid on the set one day. He left in the middle of a take because of the chaos and demanded that the stunt coordinator be fired for letting it happen. He later talked to the kid alone and taught him about safety and respect. The crew heard the story because it showed both sides of him. The man who wouldn't put himself in harm's way and the man who helped others learn in silence. During his Modern Family years, he won award after award. From 2010 to 2013, the cast won 5 straight SAG Ensemble Awards. Every time they won, he gave some of their bonus money to Youngstown youth football. The sum added up to $500,000 over time. He didn't say anything about it in public. His only goal was to give kids from his hometown the chances he wished he had. He kept picking roles with care. He turned down the chance to make a cameo in The Mandalorian. He didn't want to be stuck as another grumpy older man. Instead, in 2018, he voiced Mr. Litwalk in Ralph Breaks the Internet, which made him about $10 million and gave him the chance to try new things without being stuck in one role. By February 2020, the last episode of Modern Family had aired. He kept his cool on set and joked that he would probably cry during a massage a few months from now. However, he broke down alone after the cameras stopped rolling. He thought of his own father when he saw Jay Pritchett. He was quiet on the outside but cared deeply inside. That link made the ending heavier than anyone thought it would be. He agreed that there were real, sometimes nasty fights going on behind the scenes of Married with Children. Things he didn't agree with Amanda Bears turned into long-lasting grudges. In an interview in 2024, he even said that he regretted telling her that he had a button that could get rid of her. They had a fight in a makeup room that everyone on the set remembered. It hurt even more when she didn't invite him to her wedding in 1993. He hit back with an insult, and the wound didn't heal for years. They didn't hug again until the last episode in 1997, and even then, there was a sense of distance. The trouble began earlier in 1989, when TV Guide left Barce and David Garrison off the cover but put most of the cast on it. He refused to fight for her because he was afraid it would hurt his cover. He later admitted that he should have done something different. That choice caused a lot of trouble for many years. Things got even worse after the wedding snub in 1993. She thought that having him there would make the guests feel awkward. He took it as an attack on himself. The joke he told afterward made things worse between them, and they never got back together while the show was on. He also wasn't afraid to fight with writers. He once refused to do a scene because he thought it would make a Bundy seem bad in a way that people wouldn't like. He fought for 3 hours, and finally the scene was changed. He was very protective of that balance because he thought the character needed it. He also had regrets. Katie Sagal had a miscarriage in 1991. The cast was heartbroken, but he didn't say anything because he didn't know what to say. That silence kept coming back to him. The show turned Peggy's pregnancy storyline into a dream episode, which made everyone on set feel sad. The damage to their bodies never stopped. He got more than 450 bruises over the years, most of them from funny situations. When one of his stunts with a 12-inch prop foot went wrong, he had to go to the hospital. It was heavier than I thought it would be, and they got hurt badly in the fight. He laughed about it later, but it still hurt. Then, in 1997, he found out that the show had been canceled in the worst way possible. At a bed and breakfast in Ohio, a newlywed couple saw him and said hello. After congratulating him, the bride said in a soft voice that they were sorry about his show. Before the groom said that the news was on the radio, he didn't understand. Fox never called him. Christina Applegate also learned about it in a strange way. He said that the network silence was the worst kind of disrespect. He finally got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame many years later, in 2011. A part of it that made him think of Al Bundy's life was that it was right in front of a DSW shoe store. Katie Sagal, Sofia Vergara, and Steve Levitan stood next to him as he sold shoes. He joked about future wives and thanked his fans for being there for him over the years. By 2025, he was sure that the old show would never be shown again. The jokes that seemed brave before now seemed dangerous. He said that the joke would be taken too seriously and that people would not laugh at the joke's ridiculousness. What he said about Amanda Bears was also his biggest mistake. Not only had he changed with the times, but those decisions had also changed him.